Welcome to this webinar on warehouse space optimization, improving efficiency through automation. Our knowledge partner for today's webinar is Shah Realtors. I'm Prajakta Karanik, editor of Logistics Outlook magazine, and your host for today. Just to give a brief about Logistics Outlook, we are a part of the Dubai-based ITP Media Group. Founded in 1987, ITP Media today publishes more than 100 weekly and monthly magazines and has a wide portfolio of market-leading digital properties. Logistics Outlook is the latest entrant in this group. Started in 2022, Logistics Outlook provides comprehensive coverage of latest trends, developments, and highlights the challenges faced by the logistics and supply chain industry. In today's webinar, we will be discussing one of the critical aspects of the logistics and supply chain ecosystem, which is warehousing. Since cost is always a major area of concern, efficient warehouse space utilization becomes a cornerstone of supply chain management. To discuss on this topic, we have a power pack panel today. We have with us Surya Kanta Das. He is the Vice President, SCM, Product Business Group at Reliance Retail. Then we have Rishabh Jain. He is the Vice President at Falcon Autotech. Next, we have Snehil Singhai. He is the Head of Business Development at KSH Integrated Logistics. We have with us Devendra Singh Manas. He is the Head Commercial Supply Chain for the Greater India market at Socomec. And last, we have Subrata Sen Gupta. He is partner at Avalon Consulting and a moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin the discussion, we have a short AV of Shah Realtors. They are one of the leading real estate firms in India. Thank you. Now, without much delay, I would like to hand over the discussion to Subrata. Subrata, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just take a couple of minutes to set the context and then hear from the esteemed panelists. Warehousing is obviously a very critical part of logistics. By some accounts, it basically accounts for about 30% of the overall logistics spend in the 3PL space. So it's a very critical part, and it is increasingly facing a lot of cost pressure because in big cities, warehousing space is simply not available. The prices, even in the outskirts, in the logistics parks, etc., where space is available, rents are going higher and higher and putting a lot of pressure on the logistics providers and therefore on the consumers. New builds are becoming more and more expensive. So all of this is resulting in a lot of cost pressure, and companies, including logistics consumers, 3PL players, automation players, are looking to extract maximum out of existing space and maximize the storage potential and revenue potential per square foot. And in this context, they are increasingly turning to automation. We have the fortune of having an esteemed panel comprising users, 3PL players, automation players. So without further ado, I will start directing my questions towards them. First question, mainly maybe I'll start with Mr. Das. How big really is the crunch? Because how have you felt this the space crunch and the price pressure that we are talking about? How are you seeing this impact the business?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss. The question you asked rightly, that there is a crunch, yes, but the crunch is big based on the demand and supply location wise. Because if you see the main crunch in the metro cities and second goes to the A class cities. So in the metro cities, because of sudden after post GST scenario, it increases the because pre GST people are thinking that okay, post GST we will have consolidation and all, but it couldn't happen, right? So then people thought to continue the warehouses as is basis, but after that also now started thinking how to consolidate the warehouses into metro cities as well as some A-class cities. So that's the way the crunch is the location wise. Overall, yes, there is a crunch, but bigger crunch in the metro and the A-class cities. And the cost pressure, yes, since we are the users are asking the better warehouses, quality warehouses, and the kind of space, the construction for longer horizon. The cost is a bigger challenge for both the side. I think the developer, the 3Ps, and the users are like us. So the cost is a bigger issues. So how this cost can be sustained and can be further optimized, and that time will definitely look into it. So that's the thing from my side.
So to hear from the other side of the table, maybe Mr. Singhai, your views is how big is the crunch? You are caught in the middle, right? So customers are not willing to pay more, and you are under pressure for higher rentals.
So yeah, rightly said by Surya, crunch is there. And the problem is with the demand and supply gap of compliant warehouse. Now all companies want to have a compliant warehouse, which is both land compliance as well as fire compliance. Yeah, crunch is there, but it is more to do with the compliant warehouses. Compliance, when I say compliance, it is both land compliance as well as the fire compliance. Now, because of recent government norms which are changed, all companies want a compliant warehouse because of the issues. Recent fire incidences happened in multiple locations in warehouses, and there is tremendous pressure from government to change this entire setup. So yeah, compliance is crunch is there, but we are trying to mitigate that by taking warehouses of bigger size and then offering multi-client facilities to our customers. That's how we are trying to do that, and putting a lot of automation, as well as we are using vertical space, maximum using of cube space in the warehouse.
Right, right. Now maybe I'll bring in Mr. Manhas here as well. So how are you looking to cope with this challenge?
So I think I'm just echoing the same what two spokesperson just stated, that there's a crunch, of course. The companies are moving outside the cities. That's how it is going. If we talk about my company, we are looking outskirts areas where the crunch is less. The cost, of course, is the major factor which impacts everything. And nevertheless, it's like compliant is something which companies are looking for. So it is not only fire compliances, but other ways we look about the safety security, that is equally important. When we talk about the multinational companies, their requirements are way beyond that. So they take the people safety security things which are very important, just in case if some incident takes place. So they really want to give the kind of training to every individual who's working there, right? To give that how they will make a safe environment to work there. Point comes to how we are managing it. Of course, vertical way is the way which we are looking as of now. It is not here in this place, but even people, those who are having warehouses in their factories or in their own premises, they are looking the same way. They are looking at how we can make it more, I would say, space efficient, more useful, the space which is available. And here comes the tech as well. That when we talk about the automation of the things, that the kind of automation which is available today, right, is helping everyone, but it comes with a cost. So the critical thing comes up that which kind of industry should look into that, and what is what is our I would say size in the country, the volume what we are talking about. For example, if I talk about the word of Amazon, or if talk about Flipkart, right, they have almost like 1 million lines which they are moving every day, right? For them, the kind of automation which is there is pretty good. Or if you have a CDC in the country, right, that's pretty something where people will look for the kind of automation. But I would say if the size of the company is such where the volumes are low and the shipments are low, I think we need to go for the low end automation. Or I would say this is a kind of selection what we need to do, what kind of automation we are looking for.
That's a very good point. Now you brought in the question of tech. and you also talked about the utilization of vertical space. So how is it being done? So I think we just heard from Mr. Singh today about shared warehousing. So shared warehousing obviously gives the flexibility and minimizes the unused space at any given point in time. So how big is it, Mr. Singhai? Are a larger share of your clients now going for shared warehouses now? And is it being enabled by tech in some ways?
Yeah, so if you talk about shared warehousing vis-a-vis dedicated warehousing, now customers are moving towards shared warehousing options. Even larger customers who used to have a dedicated warehouses, they are evaluating what shared warehouses can offer them. That gives them a lot of flexibility and scalability in future. And for obviously for smaller customers like 3PL players who are new entrants selling on Amazon or Flipkart, then smaller companies who are supplying to all the OEMs in engineering and automobile sector. Now all these companies are demanding to have a place of storage near to their plants or rather near to their market. So all these gives good advantage when they use shared facilities. That gives flexibility. Now we have started this long back in 2018 with our first multi-client facility, and thereby we are growing. Now, if you talk about in terms of percentage, 50% of our total warehousing space is shared and 50% is dedicated. So there, this entire thing is evolving. Yeah, in terms of tech, not to that larger extent, we are using automation. We used a few sort of automation where we can really use it, seeing the ROI as well as the usage of that entire automation in the warehouse. Because we have multiple clients. When we have multiple clients, we don't have any sort of standardization in terms of packing. So that becomes difficult to use automation. Yeah, but in terms of racking, then in terms of WMS, PMS, all these are being used in the warehouse, which gives a lot of efficiency. And there is a plug in and plug out type of model where customer gets a lot of benefits out of it.
So let me bring in Mr. Jain now because we are talking about automation. So what are the sorts of automation that you see gaining traction in the warehousing space and delivering good client feedback impact? So any case studies or any examples would be welcome here.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Subrata. So maybe I'll just bring in one perspective as well before I start with the tech side of things. So one thing which we need to understand with the Q-commerce boom, one thing which everybody is realizing, they have to be in closer to the actual customer, right? They cannot be far because they are doing same day replenishment, 2 cycles replenishment in a day. So they cannot be far from the city. When they're closer to the city, the rentals are high, then it makes adamant or basically important for them to utilize the complete vertical storage. And Shubhita, you mentioned utilizing the square feet. I think the right point will be utilizing the cubic feet, not just square feet. So I think that's where the problem statement really lies. And two other elements which go hand in hand is what kind of civil investment I would have to do in my facility, because generally these kind of facilities are not long-term lease, let's say 3 years, 5 years, because of the uncertainty in the business. So we have to restrict our civil investment that go along with the automation. For example, the surface finish, which traditionally is a big requirement for automation technologies like AGVs and AMRs. For electrical or utility drop points, you would have to have multiple drop points in a facility, which is an added cost. Now, coming to the main element, which is the vertical utilization, you have to go with technologies like ASRS, which is an automatic storage and retrieval system with a combination of goods to person automation technology. So, what we are into, and basically what we strongly believe in, that is where the future lies, right? If you look at a warehouse, for example, 60% of the time the operator spends in walking and searching, typically for picking the goods, right? If we want to replace that into a value added activity from a non value added activity, we would have to deploy some kind of automation to bring the stocks to the person. That's where the automation of goods to person comes in. Now the storage element, that is something which traditionally have been existent in the market, but they have been capping to, let's say, a height of, let's say, 3 meters to 4 meters. We've introduced a solution that can actually utilize a complete. In India, traditionally, the warehouses exist with a clear height of 9 meters to 12 meters. 9 meters on the eaves, 12 meters in the center. Let go of the fire, sprinklers, and other elements. Yes. So we've designed a solution which can actually optimize your complete vertical utilization. We can have a staggered racking type, which is flexible and modular. Complete utilization of space. The robots go into the rack, climb up the rack, pick the good up, bring the goods to the person where the picking can happen. And since we are deploying automation, these facilities, the storage space is completely a no man's zone. So you can have multi-user, multi-client facility in existence, and all the stations where the operator are working can be dedicated or fungibly used for various end user or customers.
You have implemented this in some multi-client facilities, shared facilities, and what has been the generic feedback there?
So multi-client facilities are limited because generally the kind of capacities that they look for, they are generally taken by a single users. So the multi-client facilities yet to be explored, but a lot of our solutions are there in the courier express parcels, the likes of Flipkarts and Amazon. So those kind of solutions we have uh, almost 250 sites running across India.
Right.
So the reason why you get same day and next day delivery with e-commerce is largely because of our systems.
So Mr. Singhai touched upon the whole concept of ROI. So, any thoughts of what could be the sort of investment and ROI for these kind of projects? And of course, it's very tricky to say these kind of projects because we are talking about multiple levels of automation and so on and so forth. But I think I wanted to really touch upon this because there is a common perception that automation is expensive, and from a logistics provider's perspectives, there's a common thought process that the customer will not pay for it, and also from the end customer standpoint, there's also an apprehension that it will just add to our costs. So if you could just give some illustrative examples of how automation provided value to the end customers, and I'll circle back to everybody on this. I mean, whatever they have done in their warehouses, what sort of projects they have seen value, and what sort of value have they seen. Maybe it's worth having a quick overview of that, those learnings. Maybe we can start with Mr. Jain yourself only, and then we can go to everybody else.
Got it. So I think this is one of the trickiest questions that we've been asked. So whenever we pitch a product, the first thing or the first question that we are asked upon is the ROI. So if this question would have been asked to me, let's say a decade back, things would have been different, right? With the growing technology and availability of good resources, manpower, and the benefits from the government, the automation has definitely been affordable in India now. What we've seen recently is we have seen our customers envisaging an ROI within a period of, let's say, 2 to 3 years, and that's typically what ideally somebody should look at. And for certain operations, it can be anything less than 5 years. And one
Uh,
more element, whenever we look at automation, it's definitely the cost cup is paid by the end consumer. But we need to understand whenever we are deploying automation, there are a lot of tangible and intangible benefits that come to place. So a right value to both the elements definitely helps get the required, uh, let's say, numbers in place.
Mr. Banhas and Mr. Das, maybe as an end user perspective, what are the sort of automation projects you have taken up or experimented with, and what sort of returns have you seen in terms of, particularly in the area of improving storage efficiency?
If you see, in Reliance, we have multiple businesses. So primarily Reliance is more of trading of all segment of products, like starting from your fashion, the groceries or the electronics and all. So primarily I takes care of the electronics side, and electronics, that too also B2B business side. So here the automation plays a big role, definitely, because in a large space of warehouse, you're keeping in vertical space and various storage locations. If you have automations, yes, definitely your retrieval and throughput will be very fast. And there will be error free, and the dispatch will be right to right customer, and that will be, I mean, delivery will be on time and the right customers. So automation plays a very big role, definitely. But again, the question comes, how the automations play a larger scale of business and with a lesser throughput and a minimum cost. That's the also because always you see that the users see the cost, because having a bigger business, a bigger chunk of the cost to the P&L, the fixed cost likely try to avoid. How the fixed cost should be can be a variable cost. For example, today warehousing is a fixed cost for us, but in my business, I have converted the warehousing become a variable cost. That's the reason what Mr. Sangai said, that going forward, the multi-client facility and the kind of high racking of or the optimize the entire storage usage. And third part I can add to this, the complex will be large. Why I'm saying large? Because in that large compound, and you have a multi-site, so you have a one single address, right? That address become a very critical today scenario for the GST point of view. Tomorrow, if I want a more space, and my space is variable because I'm charging only the space used by me. And tomorrow I ask because of some seasonality and some other impact. So then suddenly you give me the space, but the same compound and some other shade. So my throughput and other activities can be managed within the compound. So that's the reason I see and foresee in the future the multi-client facilities with a high racking, with a large compound will be the best solution for the user and the 3P and the developer, three of us. That's the I think going to. But everybody should also keep in mind that cost is the key parameter, how to minimize and optimize. Today, we cannot say that the A grade warehouses are because of the land cost or the other cost and the compliant cost. But going forward, the demand increase and the supply also same way increase, the cost optimization can be done. And that is the way the crack, because today the rental part is the biggest cost, the entire warehousing side. So if I said that today, if I pay 20 rupees plus a cost, which is very high, if it is 15 to 16, it will be definitely, and it can be only subset by the longer period and with the optimizing of the vertical space and with the automation part. So three of us, if three things can include and optimize the way we can design and see from the both this and three of the partner side, definitely the entire desire can be achieved.
Yeah, so just picking up from from where Suryaji has dropped, it's like I would say that automation is something, as I mentioned earlier, is directly proportionate to the volumes what you're doing, right? The kind of industry you are in. You are in a tech kind of industry, which is supporting a lot of industries, especially the kind of industry I'm working for last so many years. Is not that we are doing a lot of volumes. It is the criticality of the volume which matters to me. We did a lot of automations in relation to when we talk about the warehousing, like we have put in auto box packing machines, we have put, stacking machines, we have put the strapping machines, wrapping machines, shrink wrap machines and all. So that ways of automation we did where we feel that, we are able to utilize in the right way the automation of the industry. And just adding to that is like I think the basics, if we fix our basics in the right way, again I'm going back saying that from where you belongs to, it depends on that. So if it is, I'm not talking about the world of Amazon and Flipkart, of course that's not going to work there in 100%, but these are basics we follow for the warehousing. So if I talk about are we putting the right ABC process to keeping the stock, do we have the optimum stock which is there with us, how we are utilizing, as is being said, that cubic space utilization, are we doing the right calculation to that, what is the total space which is available, and how you're utilizing, how much space has been given for the packing area, for the office area, and rest of the things. If that calculation is done in the right way, then it's like how you are slotting that area. So what kind of area you are defining, it's like it's dynamic or static. So that depends on the product to product, whether it varies. and how, in what way you are, defining your material flow. That also depends a lot in that area. So what kind of products you are handling with, and what kind of flow it should be there in warehouse, helps a lot. And just saying that, you right utilization of, when we talk about the golden zone management, the nearest areas from where the picking can be done the right way. So what are your fast movers, if you define with the ABC category, and if you follow the process of fast moving, slow moving, and non moving areas, that helps a lot in that. Adding to the combination of automation definitely help us to do the best utilization of the warehousing area.
In terms of automation, we are evaluating, we have already implemented a couple of things. So conveyors for loading and unloading, that we have already implemented. There, what we see is benefits in terms of reduction of manpower for loading and unloading, and dependency here in Maharashtra, it is more to do with Mathadis. So trying to avoid that and see how best we can use tech and auto. We are also evaluating in warehouse movement of material through AMRs. We're trying to see that, but still not implemented anything, but we are evaluating. So we are gradually moving towards automation, where we can see a lot of benefits and offer our customers those benefits without any sort of fixed investment from customers' end.
I mean, from your standpoint, it makes sense if it helps you to deliver as good a service or a better service at the same cost or
Yes.
lower cost. So
Yes.
fundamentally, that's what justifies automation.
That would justify.
And any specific things that you have found to be useful in this case? I mean, obviously, one is vertical stacking will help use the vertical space better. Apart from this, is there anything else which you have tried? For example, in one project that I know of, a degree of automation actually helped because they could reduce the gangways. So, by having robots which was smaller footprint, and the turning radius, etc., was not as high as stackers and forklifts. So therefore, they could actually reduce and compress and have one extra set of racks, storage racks in the space. So something like that you have come across, or nothing? We talked about vertical space, but anything in the floor space, essentially, that you know of, that has been done anywhere? And question to Rishabh also, subsequently, anything that you have done which optimize the utilization of the floor space?
At few of the locations, we are doing that with narrow aisle machines, where the requirement of aisle
Yeah.
space reduces from 3.1 meters to 2 meters, and going up to 10 and a half meters picking height. So that we are implementing that in one of our warehouse. We are using the entire space for racking and reducing the aisle space. That we are doing with less aisle space machines, reach trucks basically.
Yeah. And Rishabh, any example of this?
So generally, one way to handle the vertical space utilization in a warehouse is a multi-tier shelving, correct? Where you do the picking from. So in a multi-tier shelving, the aisle width generally varies from, let's say, 1.25 meters to 2.5 meters, depending upon how many direction motions that you want for the people in that. So, considering that as a benchmark, the automation solution that we've deployed, you can actually reduce the aisle space by almost 50 to 60%. Thus, you're getting the vertical space, you're reducing the aisle space, you get a storage efficiency gains of almost 2x to 3x, considering the same cuboid versus an MTS. So that's the kind of benchmarking that we've been able to achieve. The kind of products that we've launched in the market have gone through almost 6-7 years of R&D. So the kind of cost offerings that we have brought, the racking cost for an automation system is almost equivalent to the multi-tier shelving. So that's how the typical ROIs have been achieved by our users.
So therefore, you are just adding space by paying just for the racks and nothing for the extra floor space.
Correct. So
Okay,
it's like
that
the optimum
I think
utilization.
many of the customers will be interested to hear and explore. I'm sure. Any questions? I think we would welcome any questions from the audience. If there would be any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and ask, because we'd like to take some questions if possible. Like Prajakta, that we have a few minutes
Yes.
for questions.
Yes. We just have one question which has come up. What is the average warehouse rent or per square feet in Maharashtra for fertilizer bag storage? Okay, that is some, that's a different kind of,
Pretty
it
specific and
requires
not really
different kind of,
related to
yeah.
automation. Yeah, I
It's
saw that. That's why
really
I didn't really. If anybody would like to take it, fine. I didn't really take it up because it was not directly related to the
in
topic
terms
on
of
hand.
rentals for fertilizer, storage of a fertilizer, it's here there is no ballpark number. It all depends where you are storing and which part of the town you're storing, and what are the compliance which are required for storing a fertilizer. That how it will define it. Rentals in any case it will remain same whether you store fertilizer, whether you store any sort of non-as products. So it all depends what are compliances required. It needs to be defined and then prepare a solution what is based on the requirements.
We have one question from Nihar Paida. In one of the research, it came out that the warehouse space is overflowing in metros, but there is a crunch in tier one and tier two. Is this correct? If I may, start with this, I think what you may find is that a lot of the so-called warehouse space in the metros are actually old school warehouse space, which is there in the congested city center, which are not really compliant and usable. So that is, I think, one line. But would be happy to hear from you, esteemed panelists, on this issue.
Maybe I think it is more to do with the demand also, right? Because when we talk about warehousing space, the consumption is more, let's say, in the metro cities versus the tier two, tier three sound. And like I said, they want to be closer to the consumer so that they can fulfill faster. And that's the need of the rising demand in tier one and tier two cities for warehousing space recently.
No, but I think his question was that there's overflowing space in metros. So I don't know whether it's overflowing, but what I do know is that there is some space, but which is not really usable by many corporates who have standards of as Neil mentioned, both in terms of land use standards as well as fire standards. So
And
there is
vertical
space which do not meet the requirements, certainly.
and old infrastructure, like you
Old
rightly
infrastructure,
mentioned,
exactly.
is
Yeah,
not taking care of the vertical space.
So
yeah.
adding to you, like he said, overflowing, I think not that true. You added that there is old warehouses. Yes, those will be now converting to new warehouses in new locations in outskirts of the cities. And primarily, or before that, also we need to understand what is the really warehouse coming from, because there is a demand is unconstrained and supply is constrained. To meet that gap, we need the warehouses. That's the reason, right? And to have that warehouses normally started with the companies or bigger companies, the corporate offices, and the bigger city and demands comes from that bigger cities. Then number of warehouses will be definitely coming. Demand is coming for the warehouses, particular cities like Mumbai or like Kolkata or Chennai or Delhi. So there still there is a demand, but the supply is there is a constraint of warehouses, quality of warehouses. What we are talking so far, the standard, the quality, the compliant warehouses primarily, because of the new norms of the government, we have to all go to the compliant warehouses. That's the way that are not available today.
Okay, Nihar has just clarified. His question is that most of the builders are coming up or preferring metros rather than tier one, tier two. Even the new developments by the likes of Embassy Indospace are happening in metros rather than tier
Correct.
one, tier two. So, why that is happening? I think my answer would be that that's probably they are seeing the demand. That's why they are investing there. But would like to hear from the panelists as well.
I can add here, like what is asking today. If you see the network of transportation is increased a lot, and the road networks are very good. And going forward, also the transportation network will be very good. In that scenario, the number of storage point for a company should be less because of the point, because the SKU level, the planning level, with multiple warehouses is very difficult. So you have good network, good infrastructure of transportation, definitely there will be a consolidation of the warehouses to the bigger cities, kind of fulfillment center. That means A class or and B class cities will have some kind of transit warehouses, or you can say transshipment hubs kind of things will come up, like dark store and all. So that's the way I think going to be in the future. Definitely metro and the A class, it will be a bigger warehouses always.
It is
So,
more of a dark stores which are coming up in almost all sort of tier A, tier one, and tier two cities. But not for manufacturing or engineering clients. They always try and prefer to have consolidation, and then they ship the material from maybe cities like Pune, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, all these locations, Bangalore, Chennai, all these locations, they'll ship remotely. Otherwise, and the road network is really going good right now. So it can reach overnight, 24 hours or maximum 48 hours. So that is not giving that kind of lucrative business for all the developers to have their warehouses into a tier one or tier two cities.
yeah, I think Nihat's comment was that he thanks Suryakant for his answer, and he's saying that in that case, rates will definitely become higher as the line prices have gone up. And I think we all agree that that is going to be the case increasingly. So we have another question from another person. Actually, he wants to understand. He has a 1 million square feet land space adjoining NH16 in Bhubaneswar, and wants advice on how to start with warehousing the land. I'm sure if it's in a good location near a good tier one city, many of the 3PL providers would be happy to come and co-develop the space. Right, Mr. Singhai? I think that's probably the best answer we can give at this stage. That's all. I think we have received this. I don't think we have any further questions.
In that case, thank you very much for joining us today and giving your insightful. I mean, it was a insightful panel discussion and a lot of to take away for us as well. We look forward to having many more such sessions in future as well. Thank you everyone for joining us.